Very pleasant good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome into O'Neill's Grill for our weekly Fan and Press Luncheon. Today's lineup will feature once again the head coach of the JMU football Dukes, Mike Houston. He's on his way. And we also already have here in the audience Christy Morgan, head coach of the JMU field hockey Dukes, who are currently number 17 in the country. They've got a home match coming up Friday. We'll talk a little bit more about that before we bring Coach Morgan up to the podium in just a little while. A few notes for JMU football. The Dukes remain number one on the Stats FCS and coaches poll with well over the majority of the votes, as they have done so over 5 consecutive weeks. 17 consecutive wins, which ties the Colonial Athletic Association record by a CA member. Richmond did so in 2008-2009, and coincidentally, for those of you who have been following JMU football for a while, the last loss that Richmond had prior to that start was the Scotty McGee punt return in the final second of the ball game for the victory. So you may recall that one, those of you who have been following JMU football for a number of years. Trey Sharp is the Offensive Player of the Year. Trey carried the load quite a bit last week against Delaware, 36 carries for a career-high 185 yards. He had a career high prior to that against Sam Houston State in the playoffs last December. And he pushed his season total to 378 yards for the year, and he also eclipsed 1,000 yards rushing in his career. The Dukes do have a bye week this Saturday, and they'll return to Bridgeport Stadium on October the 14th, hosting the Wildcats of Villanova in a Colonial Athletic Association matchup. The Wildcats are 3-2, 1-1 in the CA. They will host Maine on Saturday. The game on October the 14th is a sellout. The New Hampshire and Richmond games are approaching sellout status. There still are a few tickets for both. You can contact the JMU ticket office or go online, jmusports.com/tickets to get those tickets. Hurry up, because they are certainly going fast. A few other notes on other fall sports before we invite Coach Houston to the podium. Cross country 6-0, football 5-0, field hockey 7-3. Men's soccer at number 5 North Carolina tonight. You can watch that match online through the ACC Network Extra, and the Dukes are 4-3-3 and 1-0-2 in the Colonial Athletic Association, currently in 3rd place. Women's soccer is 7-6, 2-2. They host the College of Charleston here in town on Thursday at Centera Park. All of those games are free of charge. And volleyball 12-1. The Dukes did have their winning streak snapped by the College of Charleston on Sunday. A very exciting match, went 5 sets, and that could be a prelude to the CA Championship Tournament, which James Madison hosts in November. The Dukes are 2-1 in the CA. They got a couple of road matches this weekend. Men's golf today, playing in the Wolfpack Intercollegiate. Women's golf at Pinehurst Challenge next Monday and Tuesday. Men's golf at the Queen's University Fall Invitational this weekend. And women's tennis at the Wake Forest Invitational, just to give you an idea about where those teams are. And guess what? Basketball practice has started. So we are very much approaching the overlap season. Basketball soon to be underway. Football, again, has a bye week this week, but we've got the Delaware game to talk about and maybe chat a little bit about what the Dukes are doing with their bye week as we invite to the podium Mike Houston. Coach Houston.
Good afternoon. Great to be back here at O'Neill's. Thanks, Mo and Tim, for having us back here again this week. Aloha. I decided I would break out my shirt that was given to me by the Hawaiian Duke Club. So my first spring here at JMU, I had a group of professors in the accounting school that contacted me and wanted to get together with the football coach and get to know him. And so I went to lunch with a group and started getting to know them. And their trademark is they come to every home game and they wear Hawaiian shirts. They sit in a certain section in the stadium. And then they made it to Frisco last year. Most Tuesdays they're here at the press conference. Sometimes they have a large group. Sometimes they don't. Sometimes they have their shirts on. Sometimes they don't. But they gave me a shirt as an honorary member. We had a follow-up meeting this past spring, and they're a loyal part of a following. And I talk all the time about how great we have the support from the fans and the alumni. But I did want to mention just one thing. I feel like we have great support from our faculty and staff at JMU also. and not only on Saturdays, on game days, but also throughout the year. Working with our student athletes, and I'm very excited about the academic growth that we've had with our student athletes at JMU, and I think that the faculty and staff they respect and appreciate that from our kids as well. So the statement was made that they want to have an accounting school that the football team would be proud of. We also want a football program that all the faculty and staff at JMU are proud of. So I just thought I'd start off with that little tidbit here today. But obviously a great weekend this past weekend from our football program, being able to go on the road to Delaware and win a tough, hard-fought CAA game the way we did. We anticipated it being that kind of game this past Saturday, and it was everything that we thought it would be. Certainly didn't start off very good, turning it over on the first two possessions, but I think that even speaks more to the mental toughness of the team that we have this year, because they didn't panic. They didn't start, just going into a shell or anything. They kept fighting. They kept battling. We were able to hold Delaware to 3 points there during that span of time, and then our offense responded immediately with a scoring drive to put us back ahead 7-3. The game went back and forth. I think that is a credit to Delaware and the type of team that they have this year and the way that they have prepared, that it was a very competitive game all throughout. But I'm very, very pleased with the way our kids responded, especially in the second half, being able to shut out Delaware and able to secure the win 20-10 in what is a very tough place to play. It reminded me very much of the games at New Hampshire and at Villanova last year, where I thought that and Maine, where you go into challenging road venues and have to find some way to scrap out a win and come back home. So 2-0 in the CAA, 5-0 on the season, so happy with where we are going into the bye week. Able to get a little bit of a head start on Villanova this week, able to address a few issues that we want to with ourselves this week, and able to, get some guys, some bumps and bruises healed back up and get ready for the second half of the season. So pleased with where we are right now, and excited to look at what is ahead of us on the schedule. So questions about the Delaware game or anything with the bye week?
Coach Dave Thomas, ESPN Radio, JMU Sprint Broadcast Network. You talked about the 2 turnovers you had. Talk about the communication with your staff to your offensive team and how they kind of help calm things down and get the offense going in the right direction.
Well, I think the biggest thing, and this is something that I think anyone that's been on the sideline, college football game, high school football game, pro football game, can respect. Brian, we had our leadership council meeting Sunday night, and Brian Shore brought up, he said, Coach, he said, one thing that really stood out to me this past Saturday was, we went out and we had 2 turnovers, right off the bat on offense. He said, I never heard any griping and complaining on the sideline from the defensive players, from the other offensive players, from anybody. It was kind of like, all right, here we go. Let's get this addressed or whatever. I think that shows, even reinforces more what I've talked about the unity of this team. So I think that, I think that only helps with, not pressing, not panicking. Just, hey, we can handle this. We were able to force a punt on the first turnover. The second turnover, we did give up a field goal after the quarterback scramble got him into range. Granted, it was a 55-yard field goal, so, at least it wasn't a short one. But, we were able to keep everything in check until we got things going offensively, which we did the very next drive. So I think that shows maturity, that shows mental toughness, that shows unity, and all those things are the reason this group is 5-0 at this point in the season.
Greg Medea, DNR, what are some of the things you're seeing from defenses this year that you maybe didn't see last year?
Well, from Delaware, we saw a lot of what we thought we would see. They had 2 weeks to get ready for us, so, they were very, very prepared. I think you saw an experienced, older group of players and a very talented group. So, facing an odd front versus facing an even front, a team is what it is. You have your base scheme or whatever. Do I think that there were plays there that we didn't take advantage of on Saturday? Absolutely. And looking back at the film, certainly there's things that, we should have been able to take advantage of that we didn't. At the same time, I think that is, and Coach Kirkpatrick and I talked about that this morning, that defense that we faced Saturday is right up there with North Dakota State, Youngstown State, last year's Villanova group, as one of the better defensive units we've faced since I've been here at JMU.
David Guzman, WHSV in Harrisonburg. Coach, when it comes to Brian Shore and the interception that come early in the game, what are some of the conversations like between the coaching staff and him, where I imagine it's, look, like we can only, get you out of those mistakes so many times?
Well, I mean, there's different reasons for all of them. When you look back at the film on Saturday, we had a receiver run the wrong route that should have cleared the safety. It should not have been, double coverage. It should have been a one-on-one ball, which is what Brian thought he was getting. Now Brian's got to, he's got to see that, but we can't have that bust from the wideout right there either to bring another defender into the picture. So it's different reasons each time. Sometimes it's, Brian makes a mistake. Sometimes it's somebody else makes a mistake. At the end of the day, and I've told Brian before, he's a lot like I am. At the end of the day, he's responsible. At the end of the day, I'm responsible for the program. Sometimes the quarterback gets the blame when it isn't necessarily his fault. Sometimes, he gets credit when it isn't necessarily his credit either. So that's just the way it goes with playing that position. But, the good thing about Brian is he, if he makes a mistake once, you usually don't see him making that mistake a second time. And he is his own worst critic. He is harder on himself than any of us are on him. So, he's going to work very, very hard to try to eliminate any mistakes on his part. But the conversations are always very, analytical from a standpoint of this is what you got, this is what should have happened, or this is why this happened, or whatever. But, I'll tell you this, I'm glad that he's our quarterback at JMU. And I can promise you that every other team in the CAA and probably the vast majority of FCS and probably the half of FBS wish Brian Shore was their quarterback.
Coach, let's stay on the topic of Brian for a minute. He carried the ball 9 times. Was that part of the game plan going in to have him, or did you think he could do that much? And, again, did he get down out of the plays the way you wanted him to?
Well, we knew he was going to have to carry it some this week just from our game plan, whether it's design quarterback draws, the zone read, that kind of stuff. We knew that some of that was going to be in the plan. Some of the scrambles, could we have cut some of those out? Maybe. But, that's going to be an aspect of his game anyway because that's just the style of quarterback he is. I do think that he was a huge positive impact on the game Saturday with his ability to run. I mean, you saw so many critical third downs where he was able to make something out of nothing and get the first down to keep a drive going. And at the end of the day, that's one of the big factors of why we won the football game. So I think that, for whatever reason that he carried the ball as much as he did on Saturday, that was one of the reasons we won.
You're good. Just kind of in general, what are some of the things you want to address with your team this week, either offensively or defensively, just some things you guys want to clean up?
Well, I mean, I think you're always looking to refine what you're doing, whether it's cleaning up some communication in the run game or it's defensively changing some things up with how we call things or how we adjust things. We're going to add some new wrinkles, obviously, on each side of the football for Villanova, maybe expand just a little bit more of our package. A lot of it's maybe getting some of the younger players, bringing them on along to where we can get some more contributions from them down the stretch. I did a snap count analysis of every play that everybody's played the first 5 ball games and looking at how we can find some younger guys to take some of the load off of our high rep guys this week. Talked to the staff this morning about some things on special teams I want to get cleaned up. So I think there's always room for improvement. We've looked at those things, and that's what we'll be addressing along with, some early prep work for Villanova this week.
Coach Harry O'Kelly's fake punt was crucial there in the third to keep the drive alive. Talk about now how folks are going to defend the guessing game, how folks are going to defend you when he comes out to punt because he can do so many different things now.
And he is unique because, he can rugby it going right, he can rugby it going left, he can rugby to the field, he can rugby to the boundary, he can traditional punt. We rugby to both our short side and our long side on Saturday out of our punt formation. So he's so versatile that I do think that in time you're going to see people defend us differently with the punt unit. Against East Tennessee State and Norfolk State, we could have faked punts against both of them because they did not secure the edge. I just was not comfortable giving him that flexibility just yet. So we've been working it for about 2 weeks where we allow him to read it in practice. Now, he has the parameters, he better get it if he chooses to read one off our goal line now. But the thing is, I promise you, everybody that we play the rest of the way took notice of that Saturday, and he does have that ability. And it takes me back to, I was able to go to the Sugar Bowl 2005 or so. I think it was West Virginia and Georgia. Late in the game, West Virginia's punting. They had a rugby-style scheme going right there. They were getting ready to punt the ball back to Georgia as a one-possession game, and all of a sudden, this kid takes off down the sideline, very much like Harry, gets the first down. They go victory formation, win the ball game. Georgia never gets the ball back. At the end of the day, it is a weapon, and he's a great athlete. He was a good Australian rules football player, back home, and so we're fortunate we have him as a weapon, on Saturdays for us.
Staying on the topic of special teams, I want to talk about Tyler Gray. You didn't have to use him much early in the season because you weren't in those field goal situations. How much of his evolution comes out of practice then, to put him in game-like situations where he can go out and make a career long like he did on Saturday?
Right. Well, each week, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday of each week, we work the field goal unit. Tuesday and Wednesday, we'll get some live work, where we get a live rush versus Tyler kicking. And, we put him in a variety of spots all over the field, and the media guys have been there, have seen that. And we kick in any kind of conditions we can get. So I just think as much as you can put them in pressure situations. During preseason camp, we'd put conditioning on his kicks, or we'd put, a up down to the bank on his kick. And so as much as you can create that in practice, it's only going to help. But, we have confidence in Tyler. I would not have trotted him out there for a 48-yarder at that point in the ball game if I didn't have confidence that he could make it. And I feel like that Tyler and I have a good judge of what his range is depending on the conditions and all the factors in the ball game. So proud of him with that kick. That's a clutch kick. Probably not quite as clutch as the one at North Dakota State to put us ahead for good, but still a clutch kick, and he's a guy that's hit those big kicks in his career.
When you think about the early preparation for Villanova, does it help you get a jump on that 3-3-5 stack that they run? Because your guys don't see that very often?
Yeah, you don't see that scheme a ton, so certainly it's a help. And, watching them this morning, I think they're every bit as, intimidating as they were last year, or whatever word you want to put in there, as far as they're a solid defensive unit. They're going to be right up there with, Delaware and Maine and some of the better defenses we've seen this year. So it will certainly help. The hard thing is just like with somebody trying to simulate us is we could never do it as well as they can in practice. So I think the 2 weeks does help.
Recruiting this week, where do you send your coaches? When do they go out? Kind of the plan there.
They were out yesterday. Part of the staff will be out Thursday. I got the whole staff back in Tuesday and Wednesday. Everybody's out on Friday, and we're going to be everywhere from New Jersey to Florida. Throughout this week, and we're seeing all of our committed kids and see a lot of our top guys outside of that aren't committed yet.
Coach Rocco talked about your offensive, the multiple fronts, multiple things you can do offensively. And if I'm right in my numbers, roughly 13 scoring drives of 5 plays or less and 12 of 8 or more. So you can go fast, you can go slow. The preparation to do that, how do you get your offensive line especially ready to go, or slow things down because they got to be in that same mode? And sometimes you'll do go it and slow in the same drive. How do you get them ready? And then talk about the communication between your coaches and your offense trying to make that happen.
Well, there's a lot goes into it. It's obviously something we work each week. We have a tempo period each week where you go offense versus defense, and it is literally as absolutely as fast as you can line the ball up and go that we go. And the defense has a hard time even getting set, but it prepares our defense for a hurry-up offense as well. But, we do that. We got it planned on Wednesday of this week where, we'll start practice with it, and it is mock speed. It is probably faster than you truly can operate, but, it gets that urgency there with them. And then throughout practice, you'll see us use different speeds depending on what we're doing. If we're going good versus good, offense versus defense, that's really when we can go faster because all the kids know what they're doing. When we're going against a show team or a scout team, we'll slow things down. But, that's something that Coach Kirkpatrick, believes is an advantage for us, and I do too, and that's the ability to change up speeds. I thought you saw that our tempo on Saturday did give Delaware some problems, and I thought we were very effective when we used it. Our communication is different. We're going fast, and it is we're going slow. So we really have 3 speeds. We can go ultra fast, we can go kind of the medium kind of deal, and then we can go as slow as we want to.
I won't ask how the team thinks about this winning streak because I can probably figure out the answer to that. But how tough has it been to string 17 in a row, and how special this is?
Well, I think it's special. I think it says a lot about our program. I think it says a lot about the young men in our program and the coaching staff that I have at JMU. And I think it says a lot about the commitment that JMU has made to giving us the resources we need to have the kind of program we have. I think a winning streak like that is special. As far as thinking about putting it together, we don't. I mean, we're worried about Villanova. We could care less about anything behind us. I don't even know who we play after Villanova. I don't care. The only game that matters is that next game, and that's the mentality that our team, our coaching staff, everybody in the APC, that's the mentality that we have, is the only game that matters is the next one, because it's the only one you can control. So I think just that whole thing is just a product of that process.
Coach, I'd like to go back talking about the rugby-style punt, and obviously it does create a difficulty for the opponents. But in preparation, how does that alter what you do in your preparation? Because the players have to, that are on that special teams unit, I would imagine the timing is a little different.
Yeah.
How do you teach them in that regard?
It's a different scheme. I mean, that's it. It's a completely different deal from our traditional. And I say traditional, I mean, we're pretty spread out in our traditional deal too, but it's a different deal from the way our punts have been, our punt units have been last year and, early in the season, this season. So it's a completely different deal, and it's very specific. But there's even things off of that we haven't shown yet. So I just think that, the more you can, it's just like anything else, offensively, defensively, the more variety you can give your opponent to prepare for, and the more you can do something that maybe is unexpected, then if you can do it well, then that bodes for you as far as success. And I think, you look at Harry's stats, I think almost half of his punts have been downed inside the 20. And that's a pretty telling stat right there, and probably 3 inside the 5, and should have had another one on Saturday. So, not only are we using a different style of punt, but we're also having, great results as well.
Well, and you're asking players to do their job, but
Yeah.
their job might change in the middle of the play.
Depending on the call, it's going to change. It's going to change depending on the call each snap. And especially with moving the pocket, it is a reaction to what the defense is doing as well. And so we try to work as many different looks each week as we can. We've got a whole script today. We're working it today. So we've got a whole script of things that we haven't even seen that we're going to look at today that we think that people can do to try to combat it.
Just to follow up on recruiting, you mentioned you're going to talk to your committed kids. Are you going to encourage them to sign early with the new signing date? Is that something you're talking about with them this week?
Yeah, we've talked to all of our committed kids about using the early signing date, we talked about it with the staff this morning. I think the early signing date is a good thing. I think it also puts more stress on you in season. We are having official visits in season for the first time ever this year. So we've already had one. We've got 3 others lined up, before the end of the regular season, and one of those is not even committed right now. So it does changes your recruiting. It'll be good to have a full year next year to really plan the recruiting cycle instead of having to adjust to the rule change on the fly. But I think there's pluses and minuses to both, but we do anticipate all of our committed kids to sign on the early signing day.
Coach, you've spoken many times about the many, many, many pluses to having John Williams as your strength and conditioning coach and what he brings to the table there. This week with an off week, will he be doing things differently with your kids to get them some extra work, to get them stronger now that you're halfway through, to kind of help maybe keep them healthier down the stretch?
Yeah, I mean, we're looking at a variety of things depending on who the kid is. We've got some of our guys that are doing extra conditioning in the pool this week, because it's low impact. We've got some guys that we're trying to ease off on their legs this week because they've got some lower body kind of injury going on. And then we've got some younger players that we're really pushing this week in the weight room and on the field, to try to develop them more. So we've spent the last, probably 48 hours really looking at our roster and where everybody is, and getting really specific with anything we can do to make sure that we're fresh and healthy and ready to go come Sunday to start getting ready for next week's game.
guess it's now a annual bye week tradition for me. What's something non-football related that you're looking forward to in this bye week?
Well, I took the 5-year-old to preschool yesterday, so that's the first time I've taken him. So he had to show me the ropes of where to go and all that stuff. I take the 8-year-old to school on Friday, and then Saturday I'm watching 2 separate soccer games, one of each. So that's that, and I get to eat dinner with them virtually every night this week. Is a plus of a bye week. Owen's going to help me go scout Friday night. I'm going to see a high school football game, so he's going to go with me. So that'll be the first time he's went on a kind of a recruiting adventure like that. So it's good. It's good to kind of get some time with your family because you see them more this week than you have probably the last 3 weeks combined. So that's the big thing we're taking advantage of this week, as well as the work with our team.
Anything else from members of the media? All right, thank you very much. We will be back next week because we'll have a chance to talk a little bit about the Villanova Wildcats after Coach Houston and company get ready for that ball game. Thank you, Coach. We do appreciate
Thanks
it.
a lot. Go Dukes.
And join us in just a moment. We'll have Christy Morgan of JMU Field Hockey here to talk about the Dukes of 2017.